Trump's latest tactic to conceal the Epstein files is to start an investigation of Democrats, but it's not going to work. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida lawman here on Legal AF with Kelly Hyman, legal expert. It's great to see you, Kelly.
It's great to see you.
Let's discuss Trump's latest strategy, which is to create a new investigation of just Democrats. I mean, you can't even do that. That's like the definition of selective prosecution, but okay. And that is going to be used down the line to undermine the new law that is being passed that would require the DOJ to release the Epstein files. But after the investigation has been opened, they can say, see, it's a pending investigation. We have an internal policy against releasing files while there's an investigation pending. And besides, even under FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, there's a section that says, the law says you don't have to release files if it will impact an enforcement investigation. They even call it Exemption 7A. It's written in the law. That's what they're going to say to a judge. Of course, Kelly, I think the judge is going to say, what investigation? You mean that ruse where you're investigating just Democrats for something that you've already investigated supposedly, and you announced in July that there is no there, but you restarted it as a way to create a pretext to keep the files from being released? No, not acceptable. Not going to happen. You agree, Kelly?
That is not justice. I agree. As someone that represents survivors of human trafficking, sex trafficking, and to hear their powerful statements about what it was like to experience the harm that they had, and then to go through so many years without justice, and finally now hoping that the files are going to be released. Most Americans agree that they should be. Transparency is key. And so this shouldn't be a political issue. This should be a nonpartisan issue, and transparency should prevail.
You know, when it comes to Trump now saying he supports the release of the files, keep in mind, he could release the files today if he wanted to. The legislation forces DOJ to release the files. Trump is the commander-in-chief. He's the head of DOJ and everything else in the executive branch. He could just say, we don't need this law. We can just release it today. So when Trump says, I'm for releasing everything, that's not really true. And can't you see that he's trying to use this investigation as a ruse to try to say to the public, don't blame me, blame the courts. And I don't think the courts are going to go along with it because they understand, like we do, that this is all a pretext.
That's a really good point, because when you think about it, it's kind of like, don't blame me, blame someone else. But let's not blame the victims. Let's not blame the survivors. And I think that it's really important for we know exactly what happened and what transpired and who are in these files and what exactly happened. And I do not see the survivors holding back in a sense of getting justice for them and continue, because we have to think about it. It's not only justice for them, but what about future people that have been harmed?
It is
the
important.
Young children.
Yeah, the part you bring about the survivors is important because the survivors are out there at press conferences keeping the heat on Republicans. And I think that once this ruse is exposed, once they claim, well, sorry, we wanted to release it, but we can't, I think those survivors will have press conferences that are stronger, tougher, larger than even the one they had today when we're recording this, which was really a powerful press conference. But I think that they'll be held to pay if the Trump administration decides to use a new investigation to undermine the new law. And the survivors aren't going to tolerate that, right? I mean, they've had enough of the runaround from politicians and prosecutors over the years.
And not only getting the runaround, but not only getting their sense of justice. One of the survivors said that she, in fact, voted for Trump. And so the fact that it's going to be stalled or delayed, hasn't that happened enough? Some of the survivors talk about incidents that occurred in 1991. Justice delayed is justice denied. And that was one of their themes that came across in the press conference. And so every type of delay is justice denied for the survivors, and make sure that their voice is heard and that they get justice for the harm that they went through.
Well, remember that the SDNY, according to Congressman Jamie Raskin, had an investigation on the alleged co-conspirators. That's what everyone wants to know about, the names of these co-conspirators. The SDNY, I don't think there's an actual list, but I think there's a file with their names in it. So it's not as easy just as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a list, but there is a file and the names are in that file. And the SDNY, Southern District of New York, had their own investigation going on. And when Trump got into power in January of 2025, he stopped that investigation. So now he is ordering that investigation to start up again, but this time only as it applies to Democrats. Of course, Trump was a Democrat during the time he was hanging around with Epstein too. So does that mean he's included in this? So none of this makes sense. This is what happens when you just keep twisting yourself into knots. There's so many contradictions and reversals that it makes your head spin.
Definitely makes your head spin. I hope that the public is proactive to make sure that their senator votes to support this, because the American people have the right to know, and to reach out to your senator and let them know that you support this. Voices are powerful, and so it's important for people to express their views of what they think.
I mean, this is like an issue that is bipartisan. Even Trump's base is not putting up with this. They don't believe it's a Democratic hoax. And if they don't believe it, then the independent voters who decide elections aren't going to believe it. Trump's going to sign it. And then he's going to do plan B, which is, Your Honor, we can't produce it. Or if we're going to produce it, it's going to be greatly redacted. And that's when the survivors are really going to need to speak up, because people listen to them. They've got a story that needs to be heard. There's too much public interest in this. I know that during the press conference, all the stations except for Fox News was covering it. But even amongst the Republicans, they care about this. And perhaps the reason they care so much is they thought this was a QAnon, Pizzagate style Democratic scandal where you had Democrats engaged in human trafficking, child sex trafficking on Epstein Island. But the names that have come out in those Epstein emails, it's more like Donald Trump and Steve Bannon. And we saw Elon Musk's name in there. So it's not exactly the Democratic scandal. And in fact, according to Epstein's own emails, Bill Clinton never went to Epstein Island. So the truth hurts. And it's going to hurt the Trump administration more than others, because they're the ones who told everyone that we're going to release the files. And now they're saying nothing to see here.
It's interesting that Green it's come out, and to your point, to support this bill, and really was at the press conference and said some powerful statements as well. And so, politics aside, it's great that it was nonpartisan, because this shouldn't be a political issue. Yeah. Making sure there's accountability and there is justice for survivors is across party lines. It's saddening that it becomes a political issue, because it should never be. As one of the survivors voted for Trump, I'm assuming that other survivors voted for someone else, but they're all in line together for justice for the survivors.
Yeah, I can see why they wouldn't like an investigation only of Democrats involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, no one is buying that. I mean, I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, this should. The criminal justice system should only investigate one party's behavior and not the others. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't seem like justice.
No, well, they're being too cute by half. I mean, they do that, and then a judge is going to say this is not a real investigation. And as such, we're not allowing you to use this as a pretext to keep the files from public view. So that's what's coming. Cal, I'll give you the last words, and we'll wrap up.
I could see if that happens, definitely appeals and potentially reaching the Supreme Court on this issue.
That's the problem. It could delay things. But I do think that if this clearly looks like a delay tactic, that the survivors would have none of it. They will twist arms, they will speak out, and they will get the Republicans to do what they did today, which is roll over and vote for justice. That was nice. Let's keep it coming, and we'll keep following it here on Legal AF. I'm Dave Ehrenberg, a.k.a. the Florida Lawman. That's Kelly Hyman. You need a nickname too, Kelly. You can borrow Florida Law Woman if you want, but
what do the viewers think?
I don't know. Mine's trademarked, so you may have to give me a nickel every time you use it. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Also, check out my Substack, Dave Ehrenberg. You can find me over there, and you can find me here next time. Thanks for joining.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.